Hello, this is Dana and welcome to my channel, The Orchid Hut. Today's video is going to be about another section or type of dendrobium called the Latouria type dendrobiums. Previously I did a video on the Phalaenopsis type dendrobiums, so I'll put a link in the upper right hand corner of the screen if you would like to go back and watch that video. But today's video is about the Latouria section or type. Now, this is a category of dendrobiums that is well agreed upon in the orchid world. These orchids are native to the island of New Guinea, Australia, New Zealand, and surrounding islands. And they have some characteristics in common with each other. There are about 45 species that have been found in the wild in that region. But Latouria dendrobiums can be small, like this one. They can be more medium-sized, like this one. But they all have a very characteristic cane structure. So typically, they are very, very thin and skinny at the bottom of the canes. But as the cane gets taller, the upper part of the cane has a thicker bulb. And then at the very top, there are usually 3 to maybe 5 very stiff and leathery leaves once the cane matures. So if you see a dendrobium that is very narrow at the bottom with a bulb that thickens towards the top of the cane and then leathery green leaves at the top, you probably have a Latouria type dendrobium. If we look at this smaller one, you'll see that the mature canes are rather similar. They are narrow and thin at the bottom, becoming more thick towards the top of the cane, and then a cluster of leathery green leaves at the top. Now, these orchids bloom anywhere around the leaves at the top. They can bloom multiple times a year. I have 3 of these Latouria type dendrobiums in my collection. The 2 smaller ones here I have only had since maybe the beginning of the fall, so only a few months in my care, but they were in bloom when I purchased them, and the blooms can last for several months, maybe not quite as long as a Phalaenopsis, but they can last for a number of weeks to a number of months. And the one Dendrobium Latouria type that I have had the longest is this really tall one that is too tall to even show on camera. But it likes to bloom mostly in the fall. It's a prolific bloomer in the fall, but it does bloom periodically other times of the year as well. Now, the blooms are typically white, yellow, or green, or some combination of yellow-green in color, and they oftentimes have purple or black markings somewhere on the bloom. Okay, so unfortunately, these 2 smaller ones that have been in my care were the 2 that were attacked by the spider mites, and the spider mites did do some permanent damage to them, and I'll put a link to that video also in the upper right hand corner of the screen if you would like to see how that problem was diagnosed and treated. But they are on their way back, and the leaves that were damaged, you know, of course will stay that way forever, but new growth will eventually replace it. Now, because the region that they grow in naturally is pretty varied, all the way from sea level up to higher elevations with different climates and different amounts of rainfall year-round. If you purchase one of these Dendrobium Latouria types, you'll have to research its parentage and the species plants that it was developed from in order to determine specific growing requirements. But most of them are intermediate to slightly warmer growers. So they are perfectly happy growing in your home, usually on a windowsill with filtered bright light. And during the winter, they do not need a winter's rest. However, they can tolerate what I call a soft winter's rest, which just means a decrease in water as well as feed. So they're a great orchid to have indoors, especially if you research it a little bit and find one that is smaller in size to suit your space requirements. You can see, I'll insert a clip here of the largest Latouria type Dendrobium that I have in my collection. It's very, very tall. It's very top heavy. If I don't put it in a decorative pot, it does tip over. You do have to have space for this one named Little Green Apples. It's a cross between a species orchid and I believe green elf dendrobium. And so, you know, you kind of have to know what you're getting into, I guess, as far as size goes. But many of the primary hybrids and many of the other hybrids of this type orchid, and many of them have been developed just within the last 30 years, are perfectly happy growing inside your home. Okay, so that's some information about the Latouria type dendrobiums. If you learned something new or liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and the subscribe button will be coming in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.